Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. First call, DB turned down more money from Steelers for Washington, pessimistic forecast for Brandon Ayuk's 49ers extension. Friday's first call features a National Football League player who claims he was almost a Steeler in free agency, some wide receiver scuttlebutt, and a preview of this weekend series at PNC Park between the Pittsburgh Pirates and Minnesota Twins. Plus, Mitch Keller tries to keep his recent hot streak alive. The Steelers made a number of moves in the secondary this offseason. They signed Deshaun Elliott. They traded for Dante Jackson. They drafted Ryan Watts in the 6th round. But there was at least one fish that apparently got off of Omar Khan's hook. While on the SiriusXM Blitz with Bruce Murray and Rick Spielman Thursday, Washington defensive back Jeremy Chinn revealed that the Steelers offered him more money than the Commanders. Yet, the former Carolina safety decided to ink a one-year $4.5 million deal in D.C. anyway. A little less than $3.5 million of that is guaranteed. I can't remember if it was a multi-year deal, but I did get another offer. I think Pittsburgh was probably a little bit more money, Chinn said, as transcribed at Steelers Depot. This is where I'm supposed to be. I know this is where I'm supposed to be. Chinn insists that he just liked the scheme fit under Dan Quinn and defensive coordinator Joe Witt Jr. more. The Steelers then pivoted and got Elliott for 2 years at $6 million with only $1.5 million fully guaranteed. Two things strike me about this. First of all, this is why I always laugh when big-ticket players under contract with contract negotiations looming, like Micah Parsons recently, always like to say that they would love to play for Mike Tomlin. Then free agency comes around, and they always wind up elsewhere. Even a mid-tier guy like Chinn is fine passing up Pittsburgh for the usually rudderless Commanders. Secondly, I'm interested in the timing of this one. The Steelers traded receiver Deontay Johnson for Chinn's Carolina teammate Dante Jackson 2 days before Chinn's signing in Washington. But did they already get word that was happening? Jackson's cap number is $6 million to play corner for the Steelers in 2024. So were the Steelers really willing to bring on roughly $10 million to $12 million in 2 Carolina DBs? Or did they only make the Jackson for Johnson trade when they knew Chinn was out? Either way, much of the Steelers' 2024 defense is riding on making sure the Jackson and Elliott acquisitions both work out. Steelers' 53-man roster prediction with OTAs in the books. The Steelers just wrapped up the OTA portion of their offseason as they are gearing toward the preseason process. Fans are interested in what this team could look like when the regular season opens. There are plenty of starting spots up for grabs and roster spots that will need to be won. The 53-man roster for Pittsburgh will be completely different from last year. Nothing shocking here as John Reese Plumlee has a shot at making the practice squad unless something wild happens. The Steelers will roll with Russell Wilson as their starter unless he falls apart. They will then turn their attention towards Justin Fields at that time. Kyle Allen is a solid third option to have at the position, but probably won't wow anyone as Mason Rudolph did. Again, nothing too shocking here as the Steelers will go with 3 running backs on the final roster. They could always have a 4th guy on the depth chart who is more of a textbook running back rather than what Cordarrelle Patterson brings to the team. We will see if anyone currently on the roster emerges as a front runner, otherwise, Pittsburgh might need to add someone from the outside. Receiver is where things could get interesting as the black and gold will have to decide how many bodies to keep on the 53-man roster. They have continued a trend of quantity over quality this offseason, so they stick with 6 guys here. All the bubble guys make the team here as none will separate themselves too far from the pack. Probably best if the Steelers add a waiver pickup before the regular season starts. Who knows where the black and gold envision Connor Hayward playing? He has done a lot of different things in Pittsburgh. In this case, he remains at tight end as another receiving option. Michael Pruitt has a good chance of making this team, but in this scenario, he reverts to the practice squad. There is some talent at the bottom of the roster at tight end, but the three here are pretty obvious right now. The starting five will be figured out during training camp, but there are plenty of roster spots open in the trenches for Pittsburgh. In this case, the Steelers keep 9 offensive linemen, including Dylan Cook and Spencer Anderson rounding out the group. Dan Moore Jr. will become the backup left tackle at some point, and Cook will be the backup right tackle. Nate Herbig is the shocker here, but Mason McCormick has an opportunity to show he can play all 3 interior positions. Nothing too shocking here, as the Steelers kind of roll with a similar group from last season. Hopefully, the defensive line can find more health this time around. Browns RB Nick Chubb addresses Steelers star over injury-inducing hit. Cleveland Browns running back Nick Chubb holds no grudge against Pittsburgh Steelers safety Minkah Fitzpatrick for the hit that ended his season. Fitzpatrick took some heat for a low hit on Chubb during their Week 2 clash. The result of the hit was so gruesome, the broadcast decided not to show the replay. As a result, Chubb had both his ACL and MCL repaired during 2 separate surgeries. The latest of those came in November. But Chubb did not think the hit from Fitzpatrick was anything out of the ordinary. "I don't think it's a dirty hit at all. I'm not blaming him," Chubb said on June 5. "It's part of the game." Chubb did note that he did not hear from Fitzpatrick after their exchange on the field. "No, I never did. Well, on the field, he came up to me and I was on the ground, and he said, 'I didn't mean to do it,'" Chubb said. However, Chubb did hear from other players around the league, which helped propel him as he started his road to recovery. "It meant a lot. I had guys tweeting at me all across the NFL. It shows at the end of the day, we're all human and we're all in this together. And, injuries, they suck, but they do happen. But, it's all about being there for your brother." Chubb has been working hard to get back on the field. However, he still does not have a firm timeline for when he'll be back on the field. "Not necessarily," Chubb said. "I'm doing everything I can at this point. I'm right where I want to be. And when that time happens, when I feel great, I'll be on the field." Chubb is a 4-time Pro Bowler and the franchise's 4th leading rusher of all time. Chubb has collected 6,511 yards and 48 touchdowns in 77 career games. He's averaging 84.6 yards per game and 5.3 yards per carry. In Chubb's absence, Jerome Ford, Dante Foreman, Nyheim Hines, and Pierre Strong Jr. will carry the load. Chubb might have a little urgency to get back on the field due to his reworked contract. The revised contract lowered his cap hit from $15.85 million to just $6.275 million. Chubb gave up much of his base salary but can earn it back through performance-based incentives. The agreement appeared to be a mutually agreeable solution. Definitely a blessing. They could have cut me dry and left me hanging, right? But they did a great job, Chubb said. I want to be here in Cleveland. They know that. So, we came to a great point. The Browns were also grateful for how Chubb and his team dealt with the situation. "I won't comment in detail on the contract, other than to say that I think that whenever you go through a situation like that, I think people think it's easy for a club, an agent, to be adversarial," Browns GM Andrew Berry said on April 18. "And, with Nick's situation, I really applaud Nick and then his reps, Todd France and A.J. Stevens, for being really collaborative partners and finding a solution that worked for everybody." Cleveland opens the season on September 8 against the Dallas Cowboys. And you, fan? What do you think of the situation of Nick Chubb? Leave your opinion in the comments.